Good evening and thanks for joining us. As American warships remain poised, waiting for orders, there are serious questions tonight about what happens next over Syria. Momentum for an attack has slowed. America's key ally, Britain, has voted against taking part in any military intervention. It's being described as a humiliation for British Prime Minister David Cameron. There are questions, too, in the United States about how solid the intelligence is on that suspected chemical weapons attack last week. We have complete coverage from Washington, where the White House is still building its case, and from London, where Paul Johnson begins our reporting tonight.
Donna, a stunning turnaround here in London tonight. Earlier this week, Prime Minister David Cameron's government had been pretty much at the lead of Western calls for a military strike against Syria. Tonight, a stunning rebuke from his fellow parliamentarians.
The question before the House today is how to respond to one of the most abhorrent uses of chemical weapons in a century.
British Prime Minister David Cameron in a packed House of Commons today, admitting there isn't 100% certainty about who used what chemical last week, but arguing the facts, as known so far, support the case for a military response, if only to prevent another such attack.
From all the evidence we have, the fact that opposition don't have chemical weapons, the fact the regime do, the fact they've used it, the fact they were attacking the area at the time, and that intelligence I've reported, that is enough to conclude that the regime is responsible and should be held accountable.
But that hasn't been persuasive enough. What appeared earlier in the week to be much firmer support for a strike on Syria evaporated amidst opposition, even threats by some MPs to resign if a strike was quickly approved.
I do not rule out supporting the Prime Minister, but I believe he has to make a better case than he did today on this question.
What's still very fresh in the minds of Britain's leaders is this.
It concludes that Iraq has chemical and biological weapons.
A similar argument in the very same chamber 10 years ago that led to a tragic war, and the subsequent sting of learning that its initial justifications about Iraq's arsenal of chemical weapons were false. And it's not just politicians who are divided here. Polls in the UK right now show that 50% of Britons are opposed to a war with Syria. Pete Smith is one of them.
I think if we want to go in there and do anything, it should be humanitarian aid, to provide medical support, to provide some sort of diplomatic bridge, to try and solve the problem through diplomacy.
Following some of the debate that took place in the almost 8 hours they were talking about this in Britain's Parliament tonight, you really can't overstate the effect of the 2003 episode in the run-up to the war in Iraq. One of the most quotable quotes that came out of this was from a Labour MP who said, "Britons have seen this movie before and they know how it ends." That sentiment appears to have prevailed here tonight. Donna?
A major blow for David Cameron. Paul Johnson, thank you.